I'm going to show you today my budgeting dashboard that I have just pulled together. I will talk you through as well my viewpoints when it comes to budgeting. This is going to be maybe an interesting point for comparison because I'm going to have real numbers in this spreadsheet that I show you, but also it's just an opportunity to compare and contrast with your own preferred methods. If somebody came up to you and said, I want to lose weight or I want to gain weight, what would your first question be? Now, I can answer this from my point of view. My initial question would be, do you know what you consume? Do you track your calories? This has been a personal sort of New Year's resolution that me and my boyfriend worked through in 2024. I wanted to lose weight and he wanted to gain weight. And the first thing that we did is that we counted up all of our calories, and we then were able to strategically and bit by bit add or take away depending on our own personal goals. And I kind of see this as being the perfect analogy for budgeting, because if somebody wants to save more money or they want to optimize their spending, then surely the first step is knowing what you consume. And in this case, it would be knowing what you spend. And please drop me down a comment below to let me know what you think as I dig into this. Okay, so now hopefully all is well and we are screen recording. This is super exciting. So here is the budgeting dashboard that I have pulled together, and I plan on revealing the various segments to this as we talk through it. So first of all, we have inputted our own data in the white cells, and then the yellow predominantly is going to be auto-calculating for us, and then also populating the charts. So essentially this is mine and Nick's budget for February of 2025, and currently we are living in the southeast of England on a gross annual income of £45,500. So as you might gather from this second sort of grouping of information, that £45,500 is coming wholly from one single income. And my boyfriend he is in fact a senior actuarial associate, and feel free to look up actuary if you don't know what that job entails. But as a quick rundown, he works in pensions and he helps calculate risk, and so it is a rather difficult line of work to get into, and he did a maths degree in order to get that position. But yeah, he's been working as an actuary or a trainee actuary for coming up to, I think it's around 7 years or so that he's been working as an actuary now, and that affords him £2,775 per month. The annual income, of course, is pre-tax, and this number here is after tax. So that is everything that we get in. And the next thing that I will talk you through is essentially our monthly expenditure. So we do something which is called a zero-based budget, which means that absolutely everything for our income every single month is accounted for in our expenses. So we do this, and part of the reason why is because we have always had, up to this point, a fixed income. We work salaried jobs, and therefore we know we have a very strong idea on what is coming in each month. And the super exciting but slightly scary thing that we are going through at the moment is that I have literally just finished with working 9 to 5 in a salaried position. I quit my job in December, and so I am setting out on the somewhat daunting task of starting my own business, of which this is a very key component. So basically we are hoping that I will be able to contribute to the income very shortly, but for the time being, it's squarely on Nick's shoulders as the sole breadwinner. So all of our expenditure needs to fit within his salary, and we need to be able to pay our bills. So basically, what do we have here? And this, of course, has changed a lot since I stopped working, because previously we had a lot more coming in every month, and so we used to be investing a lot more. But right now we have £100 in investments, but crucially at the moment the only investment really that we have is cash flow for my business. So he is sending me £100 a month for ongoing expenses to do with the business. And I'm more than happy to start doing more videos about the business. So please do comment down below if you're interested at all in learning more about the business side of things. But anyway, that goes to business cash flow. The mortgage repayment is £1,000 a month. And I will get to this in a bit, but that includes our interest payment and the capital repayment as well. So then when it comes to property upkeep and expenses, this includes council tax, service charge and ground rent. I have quite a gripe with this because I think it is the real downfall of a leasehold property, and I may well do another video going into that in more detail, but for now let's just put that down as £414, of which we've got council tax at £188 a month, service charge at a whopping £204 a month, and ground rent averaging at £22 per month currently. And then for food, this is quite simple. We budget £100 a week for food, and I will probably just mention here that we batch cook and meal prep every single week, and we very rarely eat out. So pretty much that does cover all of our food, breakfast, lunch, dinner for 2 adults for a whole month. And then annual expenses, that includes, I have the little asterisks down here, holidays, house fund, heat pump, servicing, car insurance, road tax. And I'm going to be honest, when it comes to servicing, we are not the best, so we're not always doing our annual service because frankly I don't know if it is worth the cost, and we are quite tight, so we're quite careful on what we spend on. And we do like to go on holidays, but we tend to a lot of the time visit family, which certainly helps with the cost and keeping that as low as possible. And then utilities, which is water, electric and phone bills, that is £50 a month for water, 18 for our what is the 18? That's internet. Okay, and then it is £250 a month for utilities. That is actually water, internet, electric and phone. So we've got the water at £50 a month, electric is £170. Our phones are 12, so £6 each because we are on SIM-only contracts. And then the £18 a month is for our internet currently. And by the way, that is good enough. It's 150 megabits a second, and it's good enough for the two of us to work from home quite frequently and sometimes be on simultaneous conference calls. So generally that is pretty good. That is coming up for renewal soon though, and they're gonna try and charge us a lot more. So I'm gonna see what I can do to haggle and back down closer to that number. Miscellaneous is essentially what we budget for any discretionary spending. So that is currently around about £70 each per month. And that is literally like anything that we like fancy splurging out on, which doesn't fall within any of these other categories. And it also does include our fitness classes that we attend, which we hope to try and do 3 times a week each, and we attend those together. And then regular travel is basically boils down to commuting for Nick, which is £60 a month between petrol and train. And then it comes to our subscriptions, which is kind of within, I suppose, the entertainment segment, and that is Netflix and Amazon Prime that we pay for, which is £18 a month. So as you can see, it's a zero-based budget model, which basically means that this adds up and totals 100% of our income. Technically here it's a little bit over, but that's by the by. It is close enough that it is fine. And also we have MISC, etc. So these numbers aren't exact, and we certainly do have lee room if we need to move money. We've got an emergency fund, or we've got money in other places that we can definitely make use of. So I think maybe the next thing to cover off is just some of these exciting charts, because essentially all of the other information is just being visualized on here. So what should we talk through next? Something that is quite cool to do, of course, is to split, I suppose, your budget or like your monthly spend between assets and liabilities. And very briefly, I have got definitions here. But assets being things that we expect is going to increase in value over time, and liabilities as things that we feel are kind of just a consumable or something that we are not going to see future benefit or return from. So we've got here a somewhat underwhelming, like from my perspective, we used to do a lot better on this metric before I stopped working. That's obviously understandable. But at the moment, it's about 2/3 just going towards us living and covering off all of our liabilities, and then 1/3 which we can say is going towards assets. And the assets in this case are investment into the business. Now, this might be a point for debate, but we do fully see the business as an investment. We hope that it will enable me to build up some regular income over time, like as I get there. And at the moment it's not profitable, so it's earning us back nothing, but we're putting in £100 a month so that I can get this business off the ground. And we do hope that obviously it will become profitable. Therefore, we've categorized it as an asset. The other asset that, of course, we do have is our mortgage payments. But what we have done is we have taken off the interest portion of that monthly payment so that we can say definitively 1/3 is the proportion that is like going towards the asset. And that can only really be the mortgage repayment portion that is building us equity in our home. Therefore, we have made that slight nuance on the calculation here. Liabilities, of course, at the moment, there are a lot more of. That includes everything else on the list. So we have very simply just taken the full salary for the month, and then we have removed what has been categorized as assets, and we are left with our liabilities. £1,849 every single month. I would love one day for that to be a lot lower, and I think part of it is going to be us moving into a freehold property, because the leasehold deal with that, honestly, in my view, it's kind of a scam when you're paying ground rent and you're paying your maintenance fee. But I can't complain too much because we are doing well, I know, in other areas. But for me, I'm quite nitpicky, and that is something that we do want to improve over the next at least sort of 5 years or so. When it comes on to the mortgage, again, and I know I touched on this a little bit with regards to how much is in interest and how much is capital repayment, but maybe I'll just explain the logistics of this one. So essentially, for the mortgage, we are on a 1.94% interest rate, and we took out this mortgage in 2020 and we fixed it at 1.94 for 5 years. So we still have about another year on this rate, which is really, really good. And the amount that we owe currently on our mortgage, having been paying or over repaying for the past 4 years, we've got it down to £108,382. And then the total term that we took the mortgage out over was 35. But we did that to give us maximum flexibility and the lowest liabilities possible. In reality, we are due to finish paying our mortgage in 9 years and 11 months. Now that is purely based on how much we have owing right now and the proportion that we are paying every single month, which is £1,000. However, we have no intention of just like continuing at that rate. So we don't really need to know this number, but it was just a fun thing to throw in and to say that if we did just keep it at £1,000 a month, and this would be hypothetical as well, that the interest rate wouldn't change, that we're currently on track to pay off the remainder of our mortgage in just under 10 years. So the next thing that I am going to just briefly touch on is that we have other assets. So obviously what I have run through so far has been a breakdown of our monthly budget and on month to month where we are in terms of like what we are paying out and what we are bringing in. However, there's a broader spectrum to consider, which is the other assets that we hold, because otherwise you're not really going to get a full picture of our household finances. And so I've just kind of thrown that in, which gets you to see the home equity, the other types of investments that we have been working on, that we built up when we were both bringing in income. Obviously the workplace pensions, again, from when we've been working full-time for employers. And then we have, very excitingly, some fixed rate savings, an emergency fund, which is obviously a must do for anybody. And we also have a car and a lifetime ISA. So the other thing that I really wanted to show on this spreadsheet is just a breakdown of the asset types at the moment. And again, this is something that I really do want to work on. We have the breakdown of what is liquid and what is not liquid. So liquid assets are things that you can very easily cash out, that you can get your hands on that money. And that really includes, let me just have a look here. What we've categorized as liquid here is our emergency fund money and also our stocks and shares ISA. Ideally, we would not be tapping into either of these, but if the need arose, we could very easily take our money back out of them. The non-liquid, on the other hand, is essentially all of our other assets. So by this, we have home equity, workplace pensions, fixed rate savings, car and lifetime ISA, all of which they have restrictions and we can't very easily access that money. So what I see happening over the next few months is that we will get our fixed rate savings back out, and that will probably then move from being non-liquid to liquid, which will be quite useful. I like the idea of having more control over the money. I hope you enjoyed the video and this peek into budgets. If you're feeling overwhelmed, then a recommendation is to start with the big ticket items. Start with those really up there costs, you know, your costs of living that are your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, your food bill, all of the things that like are pretty high. And by the way, you don't have to be super accurate to begin with. Obviously, the more accurate and the more honed in you can get with your budget, the better generally. But when you're starting out, it's fine to chuck a ballpark in, and then you might want to track against your ballpark and just see how accurate it is. But you can start with the big items, maybe then just have a MISC like we have, or an other category that then you can fold in all of the other bits. And then as you get more familiar with the spreadsheet and you start using it more, then you can get more granular and as granular as you like. But certainly when you get up on this, you should start to feel the benefits. Like, it's very empowering to just be fully keyed in to what you need to pay. It can help you start to think critically on each line item, and you can start to think, oh, I'm paying quite a lot on that. You know, maybe I could cut this down. What would that look like? And you can maybe start to play and see where you might be able to move around some of your money and maybe get some more going towards assets rather than liabilities. I think also if you're a homeowner, you're paying a mortgage, then having a handle on your mortgage and how much of that is interest versus repayment is a really useful breakdown. My personal preference has always been to keep these numbers in Excel. My background is working a desk job, and so I'm pretty familiar with the software, and I just find it to be easy. I know that there's a lot of apps that you can get if you like to track these sorts of things on your phone and you would prefer some sort of more fun interface perhaps, but I like to keep it cheap, I like to keep it simple, so I'm going with the Excel. Equally, if you love a pen and paper, then by all means, print off a sheet and start to track this on paper. There's no one size fits all. It is wholly down to you how you start to track your finances. But yeah, thank you so much for listening and hope to see you in the next video. Bye.